The only thing that anyone who is not coming from a CS background, who is not coming from an MBA, is that when I figured that part out, my mind was settled. If you don't have both of them or any of them, it might be very hard for you to excel in PM shit.
How do you judge someone whether they know how to talk to a customer or not?
What we really care about is that specific nuances which are kind of unique to your role, or which are kind of unique to that situation. And there are possible 2 or 3 scenarios could be there. First is
How much of AI do you use in your day-to-day work life and Glean?
a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
I see there's a lot of talk and noise around that AI is going to replace a lot of PMs.
What is one resource online that everybody should follow and read?
One is, I think everyone knows about.
Absolutely. What's that one mistake that you see people keep on doing? In today's episode, we are joined by Mr. Aditya Sharma, Senior Product Manager at Glean, where he builds enterprise-grade AI agents for one of the fastest-growing AI companies in the world, whose products are used by Fortune 500 companies. Now, building AI agents for Fortune 500 companies are no joke at all. And that's exactly why this episode is a masterclass for all of us who want to understand how AI agents are creating value in this world and how PMs like Aditya Sharma are making it possible. In this episode, he shares the 3 core skills that Glean looks at while hiring product managers and why most candidates miss them. How to check if an AI problem is actually worth solving or not, or whether it's just a cool demo. What's it like to work on AI products which are trusted by Fortune 500 companies? How to actually stand out in an AI product manager interview, even if you're really early in your career? And why second order thinking will take you far in AI product management than anything else. Now, if you want to build AI agents or AI products which are loved by your customers, then this episode for you, because you will learn how top AI PMs actually build AI products. So watch this video till the end. Hi Aditya, thanks for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Neel. Good to be on this podcast with you. Let's see, we discuss some fruitful discussions and stuff together.
Yeah, so I was looking through your experience, and what I realized was that you've always been in product, like right from college, like right from Better Place to then Jovio, and now building AI agents at Glean, which means like it is not the conventional, like the most common path to product management, right? Which is like a software engineering to product or something like that. And you don't have any software engineering or technical background, but you're still building these heavy technical products, like building AI agents at Glean. So do you think that lack of experience maybe caused any issues in your career, or like how have you learned these technical things on the go?
So this opinion might be a bit radical, but when I joined my first organization out of the campus, it was a product role, and the product role in India at that point of time were not so popular. So
Right.
there was some hypes around okay what PMship is and is not. And there was some new flavor of how PMship is being done in India versus how it's done in US.
Right.
And everyone thought that you need 2 high-level skill sets or maybe a background to become a successful PM. One of them is obviously you need to understand tech in and out. Second is you need to have an MBA, right? If you don't have both of them or any of them, it might be very hard for you to excel in PMship. So when I joined First Organization, I thought, okay, let me work here for a year or two. And then I did not like computer science that much in my college, so I was pretty sure that I won't gonna be very deep into tech, but I might do an MBA after a year or two. So then I will go do some really cool PM jobs, and then that's how I want to scale. But I was fortunate enough that when I joined from campus, the role that I got was a product analyst and kind of APM role, where I used to work with senior product managers, making sure our goals are aligned, we are solving problems, we're working with engineers, we're solving with the customer, all those stuff, right? And then I figured out that the way everyone is functioning at a PM level with a peer group, they don't need to go to that depth in terms of technicalities, right? So the core value prop is if you're able to understand what is it that you want to solve for, who are your end users or customers, and do you have the leverage of engineers or designers to help you solve those problems? If you're good at that level, if you're good at working in a team, guiding the team towards a goal or a problem, then you're sorted, right? You just need to understand that how do these people work or what makes them successful, right? So I think when I figured that part out, my mind was settled that I don't need to go into that technical depth to be a successful PM, right? But then there was a question of should I do an MBA or not,
Right.
right? Then I worked with my peers who are some of them are from MBA background, from IIM, some of them are not, right? And I could not clearly see that Obviously, doing an MBA like make your peer group smarter. You learn a lot of stuff in the business side, the marketing side, and the consulting side. But for the PM role, it's not a must-have, right?
Hmm.
Like at that point of time, there were not a lot of PM courses, PM specific segments, and the cohorts, right? So don't learn a lot of PM stuff. You learn
Hmm.
generic stuff, which is applicable to any role out of an MBA, right? So then I also think, okay, let me go ahead with the current plan. I don't want to go to MBA. I don't want to go to deep technical aspects, right? And it worked out well for me, right? The only thing that anyone who is not coming from a CS background, who is not coming from an MBA, is that you need to go an ocean depth level in terms of it will take at least 2 or 3 projects
Hmm.
to help you understand that what actually the matter is, right? I am not saying that you don't need to know tech or you don't need to know business, right?
Hmm.
You need to know tech if you want to be a PM, but you don't need to be from a tech background
Hmm.
to be a PM, right? So if you understand that how your engineers work, what are different dynamics of a team, how does the software development lifecycle happens, and when every person involves, and what makes a product scalable, stable, reliable, feasible, then you are good, right? And it will take you 2 or 3 projects to help understand them, and then that will be good. And this is what happened with me as well. Initially, I was a very noob, right? I
Hmm.
used to think that. So I will also give you commentary on the future, that how does my PM ship change over the last 6 or 7 years.
Right.
But initial few years, or at least 1 year, I used to have a lot of debates with my engineers,
Hmm.
right? On the why are we not building this? Let's build this. This scope is mandatory. This is must have. It needs to be built up in 2 days, 3 days, whatever. I did not have a clue that how do these teams work? What the back end is, what the front end is, how the data flow from here to there, why
Hmm.
there needs to be a QA, what are deterministic, non-deterministic flows, all of those stuff, what are servers, all of those things, right? But
Hmm.
when you understand them, you understand it's complex thing to build a product from tech side, right? And once you understand that, then you have an organic empathy towards which problems to solve, which problems to not solve, right? And that is the critical thing for a PM, right?
Right.
If you think every problem at a face value, then you will struggle being a great PM, right? So that's why this not being a tech background from, then struggling initial few months or few projects, it has helped me become a better PM, because now I evaluate every problem not at the face value, at the core value, right?
Right.
So yeah, this is, I would say that this was fortunate in disguise for me.
Got it.
It
And
worked out well.
like, how much depth do you think like you could gather when you were learning these things? Like, a very common thing that people ask in the product management interviews also is like, what are APIs? What's the difference between post and a get API? So, how did you learn these things? Were these also learned on the go? And you mentioned servers, this, that. So, what was your way of learning these? Were these like completely on
Yeah,
the job? Whatever you got, you just Googled and then did it, or did you study them from?
completely on the job, to be honest. So I used to be on this Scrum calls where in the initial first year, we're checking, okay, where are we with this product or this project? And just used to say some jargons, right? That this
Hmm.
API is failing, we are not getting response in the payload.
Right.
What? then then we were newbies, right? We used to think that if we ask questions, people think what kind of PM it is,
Yeah,
right?
you're stupid.
So then, yeah, you are stupid. And then I used to Google it, what the APIs are, what the payload is, how to know which API is getting called, where, how does front end get response. So it took me 2 or 3 months and hundreds of stupid questions, one-on-one with engineers, not in a group setting,
Hmm.
to understand how these things work. I've been a lot of on the debugging calls with the engineers as well, right?
Hmm.
So this will be my one recommendation to the people who are coming from non-tech background, that figure out who are those 1 or 2 engineers who can you build a bonding with apart from your work side, right? So that goes a long way. So if you
Hmm.
know an engineer who can give you maybe 1 hour a week, and just get on a call with them. If you're in the office setting, just sit beside them and understand, okay, what are you working on? Like, what is the environment? Like, I don't know how many PMs know how to set up an environment, right?
Right.
Like, what are the environments, right? What is GitHub? How does the PR getting raised? How the PR get reviewed? All those things, right? Then what is your VS code? All the stuff. And then how do you debug stuff? So
Hmm.
one thing which has helped me is that if you sit with engineers during debugging, it helps a lot in understanding the overall dynamics of the SDLC, right? So I used to go on call with them during COVID because we are online, just sitting an hour. That okay, I'll just be observer. You do just whatever you want to do, right? I just ask a stupid question in between, and then we'll go around. So that helped me a lot in understanding how do these devs think, and that made me admire them. That it's super hard job to build softwares.
Awesome. And now, then, so I am assuming that this experience would be very relevant at Better and Jovio. And what happened at Glean? Because Glean is fundamentally a very different company than the other two, where things are a lot more centric towards AI. So I am assuming that must have been a very big learning curve as well. Can you tell a bit about that?
One of the things which Glean excels at is we are really, really closer to the customers, right?
Hmm.
And when I say customers, especially in the enterprise setting, these are mostly the either the admins, right? For other organizations, like when they say customer, they say okay, the admins of the company who are managing the product, right? It essentially talk to them and figure out because they have purchased the product, so they have their life on the line because they made their company add some budget to your product. Their role is to make sure it's adopted well. So if something breaks, they're surprised, then they are the first ones to get heat within the company, right? So it's absolutely critical that you hear them, you hear them pain, you hear what the next steps are or where the path looks like, right? The one more good thing at Clean is we are also very close to the end users, right? So if I give you an example, right? So if you are an employee or software developer within the 10,000 people org, right? And you need to adopt a product, right? So who do you think is the best suited to understand your pain points? Is it your IT admin, or is it your CTO, or is it your director of engineering, right? I'm assuming it's the director of engineering, maybe CTO compared to IT admin, right? They
Right.
empathize with you a lot more, right? So if you are a product who is solving for the needs of these generic every employee within the company, you need to make sure that you talk to them, at least some of the team as well, apart from the admins, right? Then only we figure out, okay, what are the L2 and L3 level problems and not just L1 problems, right?
Right.
So that is the core thing at Glean. You need to make sure you are in touch with every persona, every department, every power user, and every user who is not using the product enough, right? So that we have the entire spectrum to solve for, and then take a decisive guess or decisive decision or which path that you want to go for, right? So if you only have a single input mechanism, then it will be a lot harder for you to make the product scaled and adopted entire org wide, right? So that is the one good thing that we have at Glean. We don't have those many barriers or the constraints. Okay, you cannot talk to this team. If you don't talk to this team, then go to the customer, then escalate, then all of the stuff. Nothing. If you have a problem, if you want some validation, go ahead, talk to the admins, talk to the customer, talk to the users, figure out what you want to solve, right? So this
Awesome.
happens at Glean as well. When I joined Glean during my first week, I was put on a call with the customer who was multi-billion dollar business for us. And I was the only PM on that call, right? And there were other
Okay.
engineers in the CS team. And I was given a brief that this is what you want to talk about, and you'll be leading the call. I thought, what? I joined the first week itself. It was my fourth day in the company,
Right.
right? So an hour ago of my call, I told my CPO that, do you think is it the right decision to put me on the call? What if I tell something wrong? What if I say that I don't know the answer? He said one good thing about Glean, which is kind of the way Glean operates. He said that when we hire someone, we make a lot of effort in making the correct decision. That you
Right.
are the one that will be able to lead products at Glean, right? But once you are hired, right, then we don't have second guess, right? Then we know that whatever situation that we put in, you understand how to navigate those situations. You understand how to work with the customers. You understand how the internal dynamics work, and you'll be making the best decisions of yourself and the team, right? So this is how Glean puts a trust in the employees, right? They don't have a lot of hierarchies. We don't have a lot of decision-making processes and other stuff. You own your decisions, you own your processes. You just need to be aware of what does the team want to achieve at this point of time. So goals keep on evolving. You cannot have a single goal for entire quarter, entire 6 years time because the industry is moving fast, right?
Right.
So you need to adapt to okay, what do you want to achieve this week or maybe for this call? right? And make sure whatever your effort you're making is aligned to that goal, right? It's completely all right to say, I don't know this stuff. I'll come back to you. Or maybe leverage Glean while being on the call. Use Glean for yourself as well, right? But important make these decisions yourself. So in a nutshell, TLDR is the Glean culture is very lean. When I say lean, there's a lot on everyone's plate, right? And when there's a lot on everyone's plate, you will need to deprioritize some stuff which doesn't matter, right? And you need to avoid making decisions for someone else, right? So if you empower everyone that you have your plate, you have the buffet, make sure you pick the best ones out there, still you work the best, right? You own your plate, right? What you want to eat, make sure you are full with that and it's healthy for you as well, right? And healthy for the entire company. So Glean puts a lot of ownership in every department, every company, or every person, right? And everyone needs to live up to that, right? And there is a lot of proactive help, right? So if a manager knows, okay, this is what you'll be encountering next week, next month, do you need any help, right? Instead of just saying do these things, figure out first, and then come up to me and say, this is where I need help, right? Or this is where I need guidance, right? So it doesn't mean that okay, they'll throw in the well and then they'll vanish, right? This doesn't work like that. Maybe they throw in the well and then figure out, okay, how do you want to come up? Then ask for help.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we call it in startup that we will throw you into the ocean. You learn to swim at that point of time. I
Yeah,
think that is what Glean is doing. Like this is super interesting, and I know about one more caveat that you mentioned to me earlier when you had talked that there's only 3 to 4 PMs in India, I think, and
yeah.
majority of the PMs sit out of US. So just curious to understand, like, what does the PM like role look like at Glean? And maybe talk a bit about the interview process as well, like who took the interviews and what does that look like, if you can tell, because I got especially like very intrigued by, because when you said that they judge you entirely on the basis of the interview, and then when you're in, they trust you with everything. So I think that is very important for any CPO or VP of product as well, so that how they can make the best decision in terms of hiring a product manager. I think people can learn a lot from Glean in that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had certain perspectives when I was one candidate interview Glean, but when I started taking interviews while being at Glean or PMs or
Right.
what I started the part of it, I understand what is the process all about at Glean, right?
True.
Talking a bit about what was my process coming at Glean.
Right.
So largely there were almost 8 to 10 different rounds.
Okay.
Pretty extensive process coming at Glean. And none of them were, I did not encounter any round with my previous interviews. So every one of them was radical, right? I did not have experience in talking to any of the interview rounds or maybe the processes, right?
Okay.
And this is why when my CPO said that we want to make sure interviews are the critical part for us so that we make good decision. If you want to make that process successful, you have to make sure your interview process resonate or resemble the actual work environment at Glean, right? So this is very important for Glean, right? So there are some generic rounds, which is generic for every PM role that we have for every skill that we're looking for in every PM, and then obviously role specific processes as well, right? So talking about my interview count, so every round was a problem discovery round, right, with a touch up on the solutioning at the end, right? So Glean poses a lot of emphasis on how do you figure out if this problem is worth solving or not with AI, right? And the reason that is the case because now post advent of AI, every problem seemed feasible, right? Because you know that if I have this data, I'll pass on to the OpenAI LLM, and then it will give me results. And now we have the AI product, right? Because of this low execution barrier, everything seems possible. When everything seems possible, you want to solve every problem out there, right?
Right.
And that is the biggest trap. You don't want to do that, right? If you do that, then you need to also manage those products as well. You don't only build product and then done, right? How do you make sure the product
Right.
get adopted, evolve, scale, all this stuff, right? So almost all the interview rounds, at least 30-40% of my time went into figuring out how do you validate this problem is worth solving. What are the signals you'll be looking at? How do you internally resonate with that problem? How do you look in the market, right? So this is what the few things. Then another few things that we Glean care about is that do you have an opinion of your own, right? And how is it important is that in this era where there's a lot of content online, there's a lot of help provided to you, right? You just want, or maybe most of the PM just want to look at those content and just say it in the interviews. Okay, this is what I feel, this is what I learned, all of those things, right? But they might not have actually experienced that, right? Is it your learned opinion or is it your experienced opinion, right? So opinions matter a lot because when these industries moving so fast, right? When there are 20 different opinions, 20 different ideas, you need to make sure that you have a strong ground on what needs to be worked after. And why do you think the problem is worth solving? Why do you think this solution is the best solution out there? Right? So this is very important that what do you think about the industry? What do you think about this persona? What do you think about this problem space? Right? And if you just not learn that, then you'll be exposed there only. Then you'll not be able to
Right.
survive in a real PM scenario where there are 20 people coming with different ideas and you just consider everyone's opinion is right for opinion and then go ahead and then you struggle afterwards. Right. So this was the
Right.
second core skill that we look after. And third core skill that we look after is that do you know how to talk to customers? Right. And when we say customers, not just any customer, a customer who is $100 million business themselves, $1 billion business themselves. And when they adopt your product, you will be managing their $1 million business or business processes, right? So if you're even down for a day, it affects the trillions of transactions, then affects the thousands of other businesses which are dependent on them, right?
Right.
So the dynamics of working with large enterprises, the Fortune 100 companies, is completely different than working with a million end users who are ordering food online, right?
Right.
I don't say that that doesn't matter. The dynamics are completely different, right?
Right.
So do you understand that how can you navigate these situations, right? When customers say that I need this product tomorrow, otherwise I'll churn, right? Then how do you navigate this? Now there are 20 other customers talking the same language, right? So these are three things that every Glean PM is kind of evaluated on, and other things are basically always role specific that how do you understand LLM, how do you understand foundational model, how do you understand the applications layer. That is always good to have and obviously can be learned. But these things are very, very crucial if you want to be successful PM. Right. So all the eight to
Awesome.
10 rounds will have a bit of flavor on every one of them, with obviously a problem solving round. Right. Glean does have a problem
Right.
solving round, like when every round have a how do you design a problem, how do you improve a product, or all those things. We do have that, but those are not very um, framed up questions. Those are actual problems, right? And those are not just coming on the call and just giving 20 minutes to you and then figure out a solution. It's mostly an assignment, like every other company also had an assignment, right? But it's not that you write the assignment done. We evaluate assignment online, right? So if I'm the evaluator, I read your entire assignment. I will comment on that assignment, right? So that you have the time to answer those comments as well, or you know what question I'm coming from, right? And then we come online on the call and discuss trade-offs, and discuss your decision points, not just what you've written, right? So this helps us understand every candidate. Okay, how does this candidate think about the problem statement, and does he have any research about it or not, right? So these are the high level processes for PM, and this is what I went through, and super
Got
energetic
it.
experience with this entire process.
Got it. And can you give me maybe one example from each of these, like the problem discovery round, and then what kind of questions do they expect from PMs? Like how should they how do you judge someone whether they know how to talk to a customer or not? So maybe a bit flavor of what does it feel like to be in a clean interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Giving example of like talking to customers, right? So when we say
Yeah.
talking to a customer, it does not, we don't want to see that how do you how do you ask for a customer call and how do you talk to them, all those things, right? What we really care about is that specific nuances which were kind of unique to your role or which were kind of unique to that situation, right? And there are possible two or three scenarios could be there. First is, let's say, release a product, right? You thought it will get adopted, but it kind of backfired and it kind of killed any of your customers' specific process, right? So talk us through that. Tell us
Hmm.
how did customer escalate, right? How did you get involved? Who are other people involved, right? And then what were the bigger talking points, right? What were the trade-offs? How did you execute it eventually, right? So these are things that we look at in the response. But the question that we largely ask is, give us any scenario where you work with large customers and that was very hard conversation to have. And what was that about, right? And how do you judge that if this was actually the case or if it's just a framed up response? Is that if they say, okay, the customer came to me, they were very furious, they pinged an email, my CEO got involved, and I got a call, and I'll say, yes, 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 we'll build it done. This is not how things work, right? You don't just build what your customers are saying, even if you're the number one customers, right?
Right.
So things would not have been that simpler that we're talking about, right? So what were your company specific dynamics, right? So it's good to go into the detail, right? So if they actually worked on the problem statement or for the customer situation, they would give you some insights which is not evident or which is not very intuitive to you, right? And these insights will always be there, right? If you talk to hundreds of customers over the last year or so, isn't there only at least one call where you got some unique insight after this, right? And if that is happening, then maybe it's not a good fit for you, right? So we give
Got it.
open-ended with some direction on how to solve or how to talk about these things, right?
Right.
Your second question was how to validate the problem discovery, right? How to know that is a problem worth solving or not, right?
Right.
So a lot of candidates, when they're given a problem statement, right? So things have moved on from last 3 to 4 years. So earlier, there was a problem of non-structured solution, right? So when you're given a problem, people used to just directly assume some stuff, jump into solutions, don't care about measuring them, all of those stuff. That was the problem a few years back, right? But now the problem is not the same, right? So, and the reason for that is a lot of PM learning courses, cohorts, materials, they have this structured problem solving process, right? Given a
Right.
problem, find users, user persona, find the problem, they see problem, then do the rise, all those stuff. It's structured everywhere, right?
Right.
So this is not the way anymore. How do you evaluate a PM, right? So what we care about is that same coming back to the same point of view. So, do you have an opinion or an insight of this problem statement, right? Because now, whenever we're going to call with the user or with the candidate, right, we know what their background is, right? We know which industry they worked in, right? So we try to form a question which is related to their industry, so that they don't feel that I don't know about the industry, that's why I'm assuming some stuff. I don't know about this problem, that's why I'm assuming some stuff. No assumptions. You have worked in this industry for 5 years. You have worked for this person for 5 years. I am assuming that as an interviewer, you understand what the workflow of this user look like, or what the life of this user, what are the goals of this user, right? So we would try to give the similar kind of problem statements, which Candy is familiar of, right? And then see how does it navigate from there, right? For example, we were hiring for a person, PM, who comes from recruitment background similar to mine, right?
Right.
And when you solve the problem, okay, how do you think now AI can solve the recruitment problems in your products, right? So if you are only going at L1 level, okay, I'll build an AI interviewer, right? The AI will draft a summary and then will send to me. I will also, what I'll try to do is I'll try to make the avatar, which is similar to my interviewer, right? We'll talk the same language, all this stuff. Good one. Now, what is the second order thinking? Like, what are the trade-offs? What are the downsides of it, right? How do you scale this to maybe thousands of companies, right? If you're not able to talk to that level, if you don't know how will the next process will look like, how did the cost come into picture, who is going to take care of the under level, not level, how do you handle the LLMs, foundational models, right? Then it's a red flag, right? Okay, you don't understand the big problem very well. You didn't spend time to figure out why do we need to do this, right? Why don't we have just maybe solve the first problem, which is just tell me a good brief about this candidate. That's the first step. Why do you go for the moonshot in the very first time? So these things that how do you structure a problem statement, figure out what are the single point of failures, which will make my product non-scalable, or which will make my product non-retentable. For example, if you build a product, everyone will say, okay, we will use it. It's a good product. They'll use for a day, second day, third day. How do you measure that it's every day? Maybe next week or next week, right? So if you don't go the L2 and L3 level, it will be hard for you to build sustainable products in the future.
This is super insightful for me even. Like I think I interview a lot of people right now in my org as well. I think these are some things that I will personally now take into for interviewing.
Yeah,
Super useful. Like you also mentor, like frequently mentor aspiring PMs. I see that you are on. I think there's this company. I
top
forgot the
mate.
name. Topmate, right? So you frequently mentor aspiring PMs. So what are the some of the like most common queries that you receive from them? And like
Yeah,
what's that one mistake that you see people keep on doing, like always?
yeah. These queries have changed over the last 3 years. All right.
Hmm.
So when I first joined the platform, Topmate, the topics that were coming around to me was how to break into PM role. I'm working in sales department and I'm working as a marketing person. I want to move to PM role, or how to understand or how to work with developers, how to prioritize problems. These were the common problems or topics in the first 2 years. Things have changed now over the last 6 months or so, and that the persona who is coming to me now is already a PM, right? And the topic that I want to talk about is that how do I make sure I'm not being left out? How do I make sure I want to be a PM after 5 years as well, right? How do I make sure that I'm living up to the levels of the new PMs which is coming around, the new expectations? How do I make sure I'm still working on the correct problem statements? How do I make sure I'm still solving with the AI and adding AI into my problem statement products, right? So these are the shift which has happened. Um, and the core reason where some of these the pattern I figured out is that what are the point of failures is that they always go behind the FOMO that I really want to add AI into my product. Otherwise, people will feel that you are not doing cutting edge work, right? Without going deep into that, will AI really help with my current workflow, with my current product, right? So there are two kinds of products, right? First is the AI powered products. Second are the AI native products, right?
Right.
So currently the time is the AI powered products of. For example, if you have no experience of building products, if you have no experience of building with AI, right, don't try to build an AI native product with a very first product, right? Try to understand that how to just solve the problem in the deterministic flow level, right? How to solve the problem from 100% problem to at least 70% problem. Solve at least few problem steps in line, right? And then think about how can I add AI? How can I make my product more successful, more adopted, and how to take from 70 to 100% with AI? Like, that is the problem that we want to solve for. Instead of saying, okay, I'll build this product only from the AI, that is the thing that people are coming up with for. And that is kind of sometimes set us back because it will take a lot of time to at least solve the cold start problem, right? So that is the core thing I will talk about. Second biggest problem is that people want to build AI products without solving their own problems with the AI, right? What do I mean by that, right? There are a lot of problems, a lot of areas where we PM struggle um, with our day-to-day processes, right? So if you don't know that how to solve for your problems with AI, right, I think it's hard for you to solve other people's problem with AI, right? And how do you solve your problems with AI, right? You need to figure out, you need to maybe break down your entire maybe deliverables as a PM, your responsibilities as a PM, right? And think about what are those low hanging fruits, what are those 5% productive tasks, right? Which takes up 20% of your time, right? We do not need a lot of decision making, we do not need a lot of hand holding from you. Try to figure out
Correct.
those simple processes, maybe even sending a reminder to your developers, follow up to your developer. That's super low productive, mandatory, all of those stuff, right? So how do you figure out these processes are involved, right? And solve for. And how do you solve for, right? You need to solve problems yourself. So if your company is not able to leverage any AI tools for your company, your employees, try to solve problem for yourself. Use these tools like N8N, Me, Zapier, the workflows yourself, OpenAI, right? And solve these problems yourself first, right? So people, if you don't do this, then you will struggle building AI products. And this is what I always kind of tell to aspirant AI PMs is that solve for yourself first, solve for your family first, right? So that you have the closer feedback loops. Solve for my for father, your mother. right? Who struggle with their mobile adoption or their navigating the web YouTube and websites, right? So once you do that, you understand a lot more in depth of the AI, and then you will build faster and better products.
Got it. So you seem to use N8N a lot. Like I've seen that you recently did I think a workshop on N8N as well. So what are those some of the most common use cases that you've solved using N8N in your personal life as well as corporate life?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I, as a Glean PM, need to always do is that aware of what's happening around us, right? Because things have started moving so fast
Right.
and it keeps on getting better and better. And if it'd be easier if only there's only one company or two companies who are making these initiatives, right? But there are hundreds of companies every week, hundreds of products
Right.
every week who are obviously innovative and doing some interesting stuff, right? And we, being the leader in enterprise AI, we need to make sure we evaluate those products, we evaluate the use cases, right? Because we always understand that we might not be able to solve 100% of the use cases for every company out there, right? But we need to have good input mechanism to understand what new problems are coming, which we have not encountered before, and how can we solve them, right? So how do I keep up with that, right? So what do I generally do is I use LinkedIn a lot, right, compared to Twitter. On LinkedIn, there's every day some person, some influencer, some company post about their product or go deep into their product, right? But I don't have time to go deep into them. What I do is I just copy paste the URL and send to my WhatsApp, my personal WhatsApp number, so that in some weekend I will read about them, right? That never happens, right?
Right.
You don't read your saved products or save articles anytime in the news, right?
Yeah.
So what I did, I just built a simple workflow in Anytime where every weekend, let's go through my personal WhatsApp, right? And list out all the last five or last 10 articles. And those are not obviously articles. They might be PDF, there might be YouTube links as well. There might be some Substack article as well, right? Figure
Right.
those out, compile them in a very good, I don't want a summary. I want a systematic structure, right? In the way that I want, right? I want to know that what the persona, right? Which segment is operating on and what the user is solving on. And then if I think that these are three aligned, then only I go deep into the solution, right? So I want a structure of it, but I don't want to read it, right? Reading is the core problem, right? I want a podcast of it, right? Then
Right.
how do I make sure that okay, I spent half an hour every weekend. I just catch up on what's happened over last week, right? So this I built on N10, and since
Nice.
then I am able to read a lot what I'm saving at least. So this
Wow.
is
So
helping me.
do you put that into a document or something, or like attach a voice API, make it into an actual podcast?
I actually make a podcast, right? So I just
Oh,
upload the podcast on my Google Drive
damn.
and then pay the Google Drive every weekend. So my kid does not let me open my laptop on the weekends. So what I do is, at the time of sleeping, I just plug in my earphones and then I hear those podcasts. So
That is so good. Like, what about your like work? Like, have you automated any usual process? So, in this AI PM era, we have heard a lot about like now AI agents can write PRDs, they can talk to devs, they can even like, using the cursor plugin in Slack, they can code as well. So, how much of AI do you use in your day-to-day work life in Glean, and how much have you automated?
a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
And the fortunate thing for me is that I have Glean to use, right, for my
Right.
work, right? So I don't need to give these LLMs a lot of my context to make it work for me,
Hmm.
right? Because Glean has every context which I am like what I am working on, what are my goals, what are my projects, what are my delivery for next week, all the stuff. It is kind of my assistant in helping me for my stuff for near-term things, right? So I also take it around and say that I see there's a lot of talk and noise around that AI is going to replace PMs. AI is going to replace a lot of PMs. This is true if you feel that PM's only job is to write PRDs, to hand over the PRDs to engineers, to follow up with them, chase them, and then release the product. If that is the
Right.
role of a PM, everyone considers, then yes, AI will do everything of it, right? But then there are a lot more things a PM do apart from these stuff, right? And the people who understand these stuff, they're gonna say that AI PM will be the last job AI will replace. So there's two polarized views, right?
Right.
And I'm on the later side, right? And the way I feel about it is that PM is not about writing documents, right? PM is not about just pinging anyone, right? PMship is about making decisions,
Right.
right? Or navigating that dynamic stakeholder mechanism, right? And that needs a human touch, or that needs a human because there would be some things which are not documented anywhere, which is
Right.
just in your head, right? For
Right.
example, how do I envision the developers would communicate with engineers, or the developers communicate with the engineering manager for the performance reviews, right? This is not somewhere documented, right? Because I am envisioning it, right? And how
Hmm.
do I know should I solve it or not, right? And PMs make a lot of decisions every day. At least I make a lot of decisions every day because if you're working with 50 plus people every day, every week, then there's 50 plus decision making that you're doing. Because whoever you're talking to, the end goal is to just make a decision. Like what do you want to do? Right?
Right.
And if you want to make a decision, right, then AI is not going to solve for that, at least for now, with the current capabilities. Right? And I believe that is the core value prop will be there even after AGI or the general intelligence
Hmm.
that you want to solve for, right? Execution will become cheaper, but
Right.
what to execute will become super expensive, right? And that is the core value prop of being a human and having a human mind, right? So AI's role is not to just replace humans making a decision. AI's role is to just make sure whatever this person is thinking, make sure I'm able to help them achieve that, right?
Right.
So this is what I think distinguishes that what a AI PM is or what a PM will be in AI era versus what PM has been in the last 5 to 6 years, right? And we
Right.
have been able to solve those execution points internally as a PM, right? Because these smaller nuggets, where writing a PRD, sharing the PRD with your developers, managing their comments, and then making okay, this is the last scope, making sure your customers know about it. UQA has test cases. These are everything automated already
Right.
at Glean, right?
Awesome.
Because we work in a very raw fashion. Right? We don't work in a
Hmm.
very refinement. As PMs, we like working in rough sketches, just putting out our
Hmm.
thoughts out. Refinement is just unproductive task. We
Right.
let AI take care of refinement and all this stuff.
Awesome. So, like everything from document creation, telling it to developers, scoping out everything, and even writing test cases is like completely automated
Completely
right now at Glean.
automated. Even release
Okay.
notes, right? We have a
Okay.
release loss agent, right? Because for AI or enterprise company, right, it is very important that there are no surprises for your customers. There's
Right.
very detailed specification of what is coming, what are the limitations, what are the error codes, what are the future look like, right? And there needs to proper segmentation and like release notes out of it, right? It used to take at least 1 hour every week from my side because depending
Right.
on how many features I'm launching every week, it should take at least 1 hour. It's cumbersome, right? We already
Right.
have it automated, right? You just plug in your PRD, done.
And I think plugin to Glean already does that from
Yes.
everywhere. So you don't really have to do. You just have to call it.
I just
Hey,
have to
can you
call
pull
it.
this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think this is also super insightful. I might take some of these. So we have also automated some of the parts. At least personally, I like PRDs and all. I don't write, but since we don't have Glean in our system, but all the test cases and all, I think it's still not automated. It's something that I'll personally take care of right now. I think I'll do that. That
Yeah.
would be super useful.
And that is a lot of people think that automated test cases is very simple. You just give it a PRD and done. It
No,
is
no,
not
no.
like that, right?
It is
Because
not.
your product is not working in a silo environment. Your product
Right.
is embedded into your entire product streams, right? There should be a regression. Your product should be working well with other products. And there should be inflow coming in also. So if your AI does not understand about the entire ecosystem of your product,
Right.
right, then it will be just doing a 50% of the core job of it build test cases, right? So this is a super crucial problem. Seems super simple.
Right. I've tried it a couple of times. I got it to work like 60-70%, but always that 30-20% of edge cases, different silos, working with different system, that always gets left away, which I have to write manually, and that takes another hour of your day
Yes.
for writing the test cases. So yeah, I think I'll work on this to get this done. This is super insightful. Like, can you tell me a bit about like what are you working on Glean right now? What does your day-to-day life look like at Glean?
Yeah, absolutely. Instead of what my day to day look like, I'll tell you what my week looks like because every day is
Yeah.
obviously different and the week would be kind of similar trajectory, right?
Yep.
So we don't have our annual planning or a 6 months roadmap or 6 months goals, right? We work in a quarterly fashion. So because we understand that things are evolving so fast, and with things, expectations are also evolving from the consumer side, right? So they have a specific workflow. They used to have a specific workflow few years back. But now with AI, the workflows are also changing. So you cannot build a product for the same workflow which used to there around a year ago, right? For the same business processes, right? That's why we understand, okay, what are the current problem statements that we are encountering, we need to solve for so that it solves the next quarter or so it at least goes to the next quarter, right? So we have these monthly check-ins or monthly deliverables, right? So all the PMs have their monthly deliverables and then trickling down from, okay, what do I need to do this week so that my month gets like achieve what it wants to achieve, right? So we have a highly weekly level goals or some top two goals, not the entire list of laundry list of goals, right? So every week, at least I as a PM have a mandate for myself that I need to talk to at least 5 customers every week, not on any random problem statement, right? I need to understand, okay, what did I release last month, and what is the current feedback looking like? Because we just don't do a product and be done with it. We want to make sure it's always solving the problem what you wanted to solve for, right? And then what do you want to establish next, right? So your customers are the best voice to figure that part out. So I have identified, okay, 30% of the time, 30% of the week should go toward that part, right? Irrespective of what the outcome is looking like. Just make sure you're on call with them
Hmm.
and just hearing them and then talking to them as well, right? And then there's always a path where your developers need a lot of your help, right? Because with this era, whatever you plan for does not go very, very smooth delivery. There's always something that you need to take a trade-off on, right? Which you'll discover as a developer while you're building the product. Yeah, this is not scalable. These are the API that you have. These are the events that will fail on, right? So this will also take some time, like making this trade-off, making decision making, make sure you're still on correct path instead of just getting blocked on someone, right? And then third high level goal is how do you make sure your entire team is aligned with what you want to deliver, right?
Hmm.
And in my experience, I used to fail when I build the product done, but then I see no one is using it, right?
Hmm.
Because no one is aware that it came through in my team,
Right.
right? GTM team has no clue that product team has built this feature. Then how would they sell it, right? My CSM team has no clue. Then how would they push for the incremental uses, right? So you want your GTM team, your business team to be advocate of your product, right?
Right.
If you're building for enterprises, you might not have Apple or Google Play Store to advertise your new products. You don't have like capabilities or something. Okay, go there, read about new updates, all this stuff, right? You have to make sure they are being aware of these products and they understand the nuances of it, right? So keeping everyone in the loop with obviously right documentation, which you can obviously automate, but having good reach outs, being there to answer their questions, go on the enablement calls, make sure they understand this stuff. These are the few things that we take care of, right? And the some 20% of time is totally up to us. This is my time as a PM, right? But this is the time that I take for myself that what do I think is happening in the industry, in the market, right? What are some things where it's
Hmm.
still untapped, we wanted to solve for, we could not, then should we still solve it or should we just spark it out, right? So there's higher chunk that we generally allocate on, and but no every week is same. Sometimes you'll be asked on a customer call and escalation, then you spend an entire day on that, and then your week
Right.
is completely jeopardized. You should be completely okay with
Right.
that. I used to be very frustrated when my week did not go as planned, right?
Right.
And it used to just take on much stress and toll, right? But now it's all right because for every week I do have certain items which are good to have, right? So if something
Hmm.
came up, I just strike them off and add for next call. So
And how often does firefighting happen at Glean? Like, given that it serves enterprise customers and everything, like in a startup, it's like almost every day is a firefight, right? It's something is burning all the time. How does it work in Glean? How do you deal with firefighting on a, let's say, weekly basis, monthly basis?
yeah, so I won't say it's the firefighting per se, which we are dealing with. It's just that making because we are dealing with some super large enterprises, we need
Right.
to make sure we are reliable and scalable and stabilized, right? So we focus a lot on monitoring and proactive alerting. right? So although we do have some systems which kind of monitor those phases, but there would be some day, some time for some deployment, things might have been failing, right? So depending upon how critical the problem is, for example, if it's a blocker, like it's a dead end, because assume that Glean is not working at all, right? Then it's a P0, P minus, and P minus two for the entire team, right? Go on a call, figure some stuff out, drop other things if it's non-blocker of someone else. So these are kind of firefighting that we might do sometime. For example, recently a GCP outage happened, right? And it affected
Right.
entirety of businesses. So it was a P minus two
Right.
for Glean, right? Solve for even it's not your problem. GCP is not in your control, but still you need to solve for them, at least support your customers, make sure you have mitigation plans, make sure you have enablement plans, right? What comes after it, all
Right.
those stuff, right? These things always happen. If you're working with enterprises, you should always be okay with that,
Right.
right? Things will go bad, but do you have enough support from your team? So whenever these things happen, are you able to catch it first instead of customers saying, okay, things are not working, right?
Right.
And then solving for them, having a plan even beforehand, your customers are escalating stuff. That is the core stuff that you care about.
Awesome. I think finally I have one question that I have asked a lot of US PMs. I would want to ask ask you as well. So you work with a lot of US based PMs as well, right? Just wanted to understand a bit about like what is the kind of difference in mentality, thinking, product sense that you have seen in Indian PMs in your years of experience versus PMs in US. How does the culture form, and how does the culture shape their product thinking? Do you have any insights on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So um, I was fortunate enough to work with Indian startup companies and US startup companies, and US startup
Right.
companies who have the US PM culture, right?
Right.
And the key difference that I notice is PMs who have been in US, work in US companies a lot, who know the US culture, actually product culture, they are fearless in terms of the prioritization, right? And it's easy thing to say. It seems very cliche, right? That you need to be super prioritize, ruthless prioritize, work on critical stuff. But in the actual setting, it's a very hard thing to do, right? Because you are not the only warrior in your company, right? If you are saying no to someone, this no is going against the deliverable and OKR of the next person, right? It's very, very hard to say to a no to a salesperson who is having $1 million deal on his pipeline. And because of this no, his $1 million will go stale. This customer will not convert, right? So, and actually, that's a very hard thing to do, right? But how do you make sure that you don't just say no, right? You still want to say no, but you also want to make sure that everyone is aligned toward that no, right? So in Indian setting, we always have a very black and white. Either it's a completely yes or it's completely no. There's no middle ground, right? But in US culture, what I've seen is that I, as the PM, would always want to make sure that everyone understand what my top three priorities are as a PM. So in any case, if I had to make a decision, these will be my rubric. That these three will always take a priority in terms of any other thing, right? But if these three priorities are done for me, if it's not competing with those priorities, I will still take care of it. So that is set in stone, or make sure everyone is aware about it, right? And they don't fear calling it out. For example, if you're a salesperson coming to me that I need this feature so that it will help me my deal, I'll tell see boss, I have these three more features requests or these three pipelines, right? And this is helping my $10 million deals, right? So you tell me, like, what do you think we should discuss about, right? So sometimes it could happen that, okay, if the person has an idea, okay, what if you do this stuff? So it will just help you strike it off second, and then you could maybe criticality of everything might be different. So always discuss with them, but take a stand. Okay, no, this is a no from me, right? But still offer them alternatives, right? And this is single most thing which is lacking in the Indian context. We sometimes miss out offering alternatives, right? We think that it's their problem. We are just there to solve their problem. No, it's the company's problem. That person's coming with their own perspective, but still a problem for the company, right? If you are not able to solve for it, at least give them guidance. Okay, what is the best way to solve for it, or next best way to solve for it, right? So in our case, right, if PM is not able to solve for the problem, maybe we might have some project managers, maybe we might have some SAs, or we might have some developers who might be free at this point in time, who can help at least 50% of the problem statement, right? That is the core thing to do. And this is where they have excelled in. Making sure you say ruthless no, but then offer alternatives so that this problem is still solved. with a bit of culture, right? And then make them understand that if these things change, then I will say yes, right? So define the variables, define the criterias, and then come on board. I think that's the most important thing. There's obviously other stuff, but this is what set them apart.
Well, I think yeah, this is completely agree with this. Like, this is super useful for any PM listening to this. Uh, Finally, I think we have our quick fire round. So this is something that I've introduced very recently, where I'll just ask you very quick questions. Questions I feel people should like. It will be fun. It will be a mix of fun and interesting.
All right?
So ready for that?
Yeah, sure. Hopefully, I answered those questions.
Yeah. So the first question is like one product, like apart from Glean, you wish you had built.
Hmm. Claude.
Claude Code specifically.
No, Claude Assistant.
But why Claude?
I think there are a few reasons. There are some personal reasons as well that what my experience has been with other products in Claude, right? I'd say there are some ethical stuff like the way people operate at Claude and Anthropic to be in general, right? And the kind of team that they're building around with, right? So if you look at the migration from different foundational model companies within the company, Anthropic and Claude has the most retained employee base, right? With that, they're not migrating, or the reverse migration is very low compared to other things, right? And then kind of things that they're trying to solve for, right? So they don't have very intuitive or very simple, straightforward methodologies, right? They just go out of the box. And for example, they want to solve for education, right? And they went very, very deep with education as an industry. They want to solve for finance and they went very deep finance, right? So these kind of stuff, because they're competing in a very hot environment. Chat GPT is already there. Then Gemini is coming, then Opera is coming, then Grok is coming, right? And how do you set yourself apart from these stuff while staying on your grounds, right? That is the critical stuff for me, and that's why I like Claude. And obviously, the quality of responses and the product is obviously good. But these are the other
Right.
peripheral stuff which people don't think about who are not in the AI systems. I think this is what
Yeah.
making them apart.
So you're Team Claude instead of Team ChatGPT, Team
You can say that.
OpenAI. Yeah. Okay. So one founder or product leader that you admire a lot.
Hmm.
One Indian founder and one US, if I can be more specific.
I see. Um, I used to admire. I still admire this person, um, Ola's founder, right?
Okay.
Um, and the reason for that is he took on some really bold bets, right? Like building Krutrim, building Ola Electric for the first time, right? Taking on Uber head on the first time in India, right? Just some stuff that I really liked about him. Um, but then there are always some stuff where kind of you change your thinking. There are always
Right.
some nuances and Deshna. So for Indian context, that is the fun founder. And for US, I would say there are a lot of PMs, a lot of founders who came from PM background, which I like a lot, right? Even from there, they're not from PM background. For example, I would also say Arvind is one of the first founders, right? Um, which I really liked on the way he operates and thinks, right? He's not like any other generic founder. He's the second time founder, right? But it feels like he has been a founder all his life, right? Because the reason is the kind of product that he worked on. He built the Google Bangalore office himself. Established the search platform. He figured out a problem statement much, much earlier than other people did, right? So the reason why Glean has a competitive advantage or any other stuff, that's why we are leading the market, is that we figured out a problem in the phase where no one thought that this was a problem anymore. It was a problem. Solving for the enterprise search is super hard problem to do. There are a lot of nuances to it. But
Right.
knowing this, still taking this head on and solving this pre-GPT era was something which kind of helped Glean where it is right now. So we are way miles ahead in terms of our other enterprise approaching this problem statement. So I will appreciate Arvind a lot in the vision that he looked after and still thinks in the vision way. Right. It's completely differentiating from any other competitor or any other company.
And like, are you a book person or a podcast, video, or audio person?
I do want to be a book person, but I'm pretty bad at reading
Same.
books. So
Same.
I just rely on a podcast for now.
God, I was going to ask you one book every PM should read, but then I'm now going to ask you what is one, let's say, resource online that everybody should follow and read or like listen to.
Yeah, I'm fan of two people podcast and that kind of content generate. One is I think everyone knows about Lenny, right? So the kind of stuff,
Absolutely.
kind of people that he come on board with, not just the people, right? I think the depth that he goes with the podcasters, it's really cool, right? So if I am on this call for 2 hours, I will understand everything about this person's company background, the problem, the thought process, and everything as such, right? So the touch points are very cool, Lenny. There's one more person, Peter Yang from Roblox, right? He
Okay.
started doing this stuff really well. He's obviously one of my end user as well, so that's why I really know him. But
Okay.
the kind of content that's coming through is very resonate with me as a PM. He's also from PM background, so I'll also appreciate and recommend if anyone wants to read about him.
What's the name?
I will maybe we can maybe attach the LinkedIn
Yeah.
in there.
Yep. That would be great.
Peter from Roblox,
Awesome.
yeah.
Peter from Roblox. Got it. All right. Uh, what's one PM task that you haven't automated yet, but you want to automate as soon as possible?
Hmm, that's a tricky one. I would say figuring out, given the spectrum of 1,000 customers that we have, which are those top five customers or end users should I talk to for this problem statement, right? And that is one of the hardest problem to do solve for, because if I have an idea and that idea might be resonated with all the 1,000 customers, but I cannot talk to those 1,000 customers. So how do I figure out that part, right? That's the hard
Got
one to
it.
solve for, and this is true for B2C PMs as well, right?
Right.
So given the million users base, how do you figure which five users talk to, right?
Right.
That's the
And
hard
how
part.
do you do it right now?
Right now, it's mostly on the recency bias level. For example, if there's one problem statement where a few customers have been affected recently in the last 2, 3 months,
Got
that's
it.
mean the pain is severe. The pain is
Right.
new or recent, right? That's how I kind of filter and go out.
Got it. What is one metric, let's say in Glean, which you hate the most, but you still have to track? Like, I think hate can come from various ways as well. Like, hate is something like you feel it's not important, but it might be important for the stakeholders, or it's something that is very hard to track, but if you could track it, that would be great.
Hmm.
Manually, you have to track it, maybe something like that.
I see. I won't say it's I hate to track it. I would say it's hard to measure and hard to measure the why of it, right? And the metric is that is SAT, which is search satisfaction score, right?
Okay.
And I'll tell you what it is, right? So if you ask for a question or if you search for a question, did you get the answer of it, right?
Oh,
How do I know it? Because I don't know what's coming in your mind, right? So I'll give an example, right? So if you go to google.com and type, okay, what is the best medicine for cold, right? And it will give you a response first, and then it will give you 3 to 4 blue links to go and read about it, right? Now, how would Google know that was it able to resolve your query? Because the response, if it's really good enough, you don't need to interact anywhere. You just read about it and done, right? But if you want to read more about it, then you might click on some blue links and read more about it. But how do you differentiate which one was good, which one not bad, right? So if you just like as set on was there any interaction within the page, then it's not a good proxy metric. But if you don't track it, then how do you make sure it's good enough for the user? Like, so it's a double-edged sword, right? So it's very hard metric to solve for when you have responses in the natural language, right? So if you have
right.
five blue links, if user not click on anything, then most probably it's not a good link. It's not a good result, right? But
Right.
now
So,
the mixture is kind of make things really hard for you to
got it.
measure, but still you want to improve it. So
And how are you tracking that right now?
So yeah, we do have good eval system on our systems, right? So we don't need to depend on we don't want to depend on user explicit feedbacks to measure how our products are performing, right? And which is obviously not a 100% accurate system. You need to evolve it, right? But this is the case, right? That if you are happy with something, versus if you're not happy with something, the percentage of giving feedback is higher in latter. So if you're not happy with something, you might want to let other people know, let the product know, right? But not the other ways, right? So it's good to get the negative metrics, but it's very, very hard to get a positive metric from the users, right? That's why
Right.
your evals help. But still, you need to keep on evolving your eval system so that you have this proper proportionate of these, right? So this is a very interesting problem to solve. Or if anyone is working on this area, I would recommend
Right.
them solve this problem end to end and see.
I think, Aditya, this was super useful. This was a very fun conversation where I personally learned a lot, and I'm sure my audience will has learned a lot throughout this podcast as well. Is there anything else that you want to say to my audience who is looking forward to seeing this?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this call. It was super enriching. And you're doing a great job over the last few weeks as well. I think one advice I would tell everyone, not just aspiring PMs or PM, everyone who is feeling FOMO by the AI hype, who is feeling that I'm not doing anything, I'm not learning anything. I would say the biggest problem, it's a data point that of the 100% people who have failed, right, 80% of them did not do anything, right?
Hmm.
And did not do anything means that you did not take even a single step to solve for your what you want to do, right? And what does that mean, right? That if you are not at least writing a document yourself, if you're not building a single item workflow yourself, if you're not querying a chat GPT yourself, you're just learning, consuming. If you're only consuming, that you're not performing, right? Don't only consume, produce as well, right? So this time with that production is very, very important. Don't hesitate. Don't try to build something very, very innovative. Just try to copy what's already there. If you're able to copy 5 products, I'm guaranteeing that you will get products in future. But if you're trying to innovate on the very first product, most likely you will fail, right? At least in the current time frame. Don't try to do anything off the bat of the innovative ideas in the very first attempt. Be lame. Just copy stuff. You learn a lot in copying. Copying is not easy, by the way. Right?
Right.
At least in the era. You learn got a lot of
Right.
errors, a lot of codes and iterations. So for that. Single bit of advice, just start.
Right. I think this is also a very this is a advice that I got from a VP of product earlier as well, where he mentioned 70 to 80% of product management is basically copying like what already exists and doing it for, in your context, in your industry. Like most of billing is already solved. There is only a few models, there's seed, there's credits, all of that. Most of onboarding is already there. Most of settings is already there, how people are made, and you just have to copy it really well and put it in perspective in your product as well. And then the rest 20% comes on your customers, how they want, what they want to see in front, what values, what do they value, which is not there in any other platform. I think that is something that I resonated a lot, and I learned, especially like I think she told me this 1.5 years ago, and I learned a lot from that 70 to 80% of PM is mostly copying from other things.
And which is absolutely okay. And the rest of 10% is what makes every PM apart, right? Is
Right.
that how do you make decision in this convoluted environment of yourself with your context, your company's your customers? This is what matters a lot.
Awesome. All right, Aditya, thank you so much. This was really fun.
Yeah, happy to this call and hope it helps to everyone who's watching this.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.